Setting a goal is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. This year, I set a goal of photographing different objects, subjects, and locations. You can guess how that's gone. So I'm starting right now. But first, I need a concept or a topic. It was tougher to find one than I had planned, until I recalled a game I had played called Superliminal. Superliminal is a first-person perspective puzzle game. In the game, you're playing as a participant in a dream therapy program. This program, or study as it's called, traps you in a recurring dream. You're guided by the voice of the study overseer, Dr. Glenn Pierce, on how to escape the dream. Throughout the game, you're faced with optical illusions, 2D puzzles, and 3D puzzles, all leading you towards a twist at the end, with a life lesson sprinkled in. Now the question is, what does this have to do with photography, and how do I connect it to Superliminal? After hearing some interviews with Albert Shih, the creator of the game, he claims the main tools players have at their disposal is the idea of forced perspective. Forced perspective is an optical illusion. It makes objects appear larger, smaller, closer, or farther away than they are. Well, thanks Google AI for that answer. An example of forced perspective are when terrorists hold, kick, or even try to eat the Leaning Tower of Pisa. A more famous example is when filmmaker Peter Jackson applied forced perspective in The Lord of the Rings. By placing the Hobbit actors further away from the camera, they appear half the size of the other characters. So I started with forced perspective as a concept, but it lacked a specific direction. If I were going to connect Superliminal to photography, I needed a strong connection. That's when I turned my attention to scaling. In my playthrough, I had to resize chess pieces, toy blocks, and even cheese slices. In the game, you use forced perspective by moving an object away from you in order to make it bigger. You move them closer to you to shrink them. So I went online and began searching for places that would honor my new concept of scaling and Superliminal. As I started searching, I had an idea, and I immediately thought of the Broad Museum. I mean, come on, what can be more on the nose than the balloon dog and the oversized kitchen table? Yet, this felt a little too broad for me, and it was back to the drawing board for me. I considered changing my concept to something else or just starting over. Until I looked at a list that I had made years ago. It was a list of places to visit. When I took a closer look at it, I organized it by monthly topics and weekly subjects. And one of those weeks stood out to me, Randy's Donuts in Inglewood. This specific Randy's Donut is the OG shop. It's known for the iconic donut sitting on top of the building. I can easily see this building as a puzzle in the game. I imagine this as a painting in a room. You have to remove the donut, scale it up, and then use that as a bridge to escape. Now that I got my concept and I got my subject, I got my gear and drove to Randy's Donut in Inglewood. While taking photos, I noticed people regularly purchasing coffee, donuts, or both. However, there was never a long line, considering the consistent flow of customers. As far as the image that I wanted to capture, I knew that I wanted that big Randy's Donuts to be the focal point of the image. It took a little bit of editing magic and patience, considering that this Randy's Donuts is right next to a freeway entrance. This is what I got. Before I left, as a self-proclaimed coffee connoisseur, I was a little bit curious. How does Randy's coffee compare to other places? It was okay. While I didn't use forced perspective in my final images, instead I honored Superliminal by capturing an oversized Randy's donut, showing the spirit of the game IRL. Now,
is wait.